What's going on, guys? Zane here with Everything Vive. Want to welcome you back for another episode of the show. I am here joined by Ronnie. Ronnie, how's it going, man?
It's going well. It's been a long week.
It's been a long week. It's been a long time since we spoke to you guys. And it's just been travel, certain things hitting the schedule, just life kind of getting in the way. But we are back. We are excited to talk about Everything Vive, which we do. And in order just to lighten the mood and to show you guys that we obviously care so much about you, we wanted to offer a Smashbox Arena Steam Key giveaway. So same deal as usual on this episode. We're going to post it on YouTube. So just go leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. We're going to go through news. We're going to go through Game Talk today. If you've tried these games, if there's games that you want us to try and or think that we should be talking about on the show, definitely let us know over there. This will be episode number 59. And so what do you say, Ronnie? Shall we just get into it?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many news topics this week. I think we just jump right in.
Yeah, there are quite a few. We'll let's limit it to the ones I think that this isn't an all news source. I think this is more just curated to what you and I think is relevant. Mm-hmm. So just as a little disclaimer. Well, before we jump into the more meaty stuff, let's talk Vive news first. Excuse me. Let's talk Vive news first, and let's talk accessories specifically. So it looks like the tracker and the Deluxe audio strap have prices and pre-order dates. And so prices are going to be $100 for each accessory, which I guess falls in line with what was to be expected. I don't think anybody was expecting anything way higher than that or way lower than that. So this is
I agree.
Kind of the average. It's a nice even number. And it looks like the Vive tracker will be available for pre-orders. I think it's just for developers on March 27th. And then the Deluxe audio strap will be available to begin pre-orders on May 2nd. And I haven't seen a date on when these will be available or when they'll be shipped out. But I'm assuming it wouldn't be too long after that. I would say probably around the summer sometime. But we will update as soon as we do see a date for that.
Very, very cool. No, I'm excited about both of them. So I know I want to get a head strap, like a premium head strap, if I can get my hands on one. And then the trackers, I mean, assuming that they're well supported, they're just going to open things up so much. So, yeah, very much looking forward to them.
The trackers will be interesting. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get one right away. I think I'm going to wait and see. The thing is, I guess it doesn't really matter when you get a tracker if you're planning on using it eventually. I mean, we've obviously spoke with some developers who are excited about, implementing them and finding ways to utilize them in games. So there will be some really cool stuff coming in, the next 3 to 4, 6 to 8 months, whatever it might be, however long it takes them to kind of throw these into games. But I'm excited, man. This is all getting real. But the one thing that was noticeably absent was the lack of mention of the wireless head strap. I'm still waiting for the Q2 dates that we were promised. That's honestly the one. I mean, out of all the accessories, that is the one that I'm most excited for. The Deluxe audio strap, it's great. I mean, if you have the extra $100 and you think it's worth it, totally go for that. I mean, it's definitely something I'm eyeing. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Like, to me, like I said, priority for me is the Vive wireless tracking.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people are there with you on that. I mean, they should definitely. We'll want to hear from them on that soon.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get some type of announcement. But I mean, it is cool to see that we are getting some dates. They are falling in line with what was expected in terms of Q2, the pre-orders and all that. So looking forward to that. And then also, since we are talking Vive, if you don't have your Vive yet, which I know there are some of you out there that do not, but HTC really wants you to have one, and they want you to have one so badly that they're willing to help you finance it. So if you're not aware, you can do this on, I believe, HTC's site or the HTC Vive website. They have financing for 6 months, 12 months, and I believe even 24 months, 0% financing on the 6 and 12. And I believe it's 8% interest financing on the 24 months. So that's in North America. I believe it's a little bit different if you're ordering in China or elsewhere around the world. But I mean, hey, this is a fantastic time to get in. And to be completely honest with you guys, I did the same thing ordering from Newegg. At the time, HTC didn't have a financing option available, so I actually opened up a line of credit with Newegg in order to be able to finance my Vive, since I didn't want to drop everything right at once. And so, just depending on your financial situation, this is a great way to get the Vive and not have to fork over everything right away. So, of course, my lawyer says, Ronnie, you're my lawyer, right? My lawyer says,
Sure.
don't take financial advice from me. I'm not a financial expert. I'm not claiming to be one. I'm just a Vive enthusiast, and I want you guys to have one. So, Ronnie,
Yeah, hey, I mean,
you got me
whatever
covered,
works
right?
for people. Yeah, whatever works for people. And I mean, financing worked great to get cell phones in people's hands. So it's great that HTC is offering something similar with the Vive. So
For sure. So, well, speaking of getting headsets and VR headsets specifically into the hands of consumers, we got to talk about Oculus real quick. Actually, we're probably going to talk about Oculus quite a bit in the news today. But the first thing that kind of caught my attention was the price drop. And the headset or the HMD, which normally goes for $599, or let's just use even numbers here, it goes for $600, and the touch controllers go for an additional $200. So if you're getting something that's I guess as equivalent to the Vive as possible, and that's we're not counting the third sensor here, but if you're just going to match kind of eye for eye, they are discounting both of those items, the controllers and the head-mounted display, for $100 each. So now you can, if you just want the Rift without the touch controls, which makes no sense to me, but if you ever wanted that, it'd be $500 and then $100 for the touch controllers. So it's bringing it back down to $600, and I mean that's quite the price difference, I must say, and I don't know if this is going to put pressure on HTC. I mean, I was reading online articles, HTC is saying that they feel absolutely no pressure. But of course, they got to come out and say that. But I'm just wondering how this will affect sales. I wonder how much of this is because of maybe some of the negative PR that came about with the whole Zenimax trial. And we're going to even get into the Zenimax injunction in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think this will make a significant dent in, the market share?
I'm not really sure. I mean, especially considering everything's so negative in the press right now for Oculus, I'm not really sure that it'll necessarily help all that much. I mean, a lot of Oculus's exposure has been kind of downhill recently. I can't think of. I mean, there are some big profile releases coming out from Epic recently and that sort of thing, but still, like, I mean, you would think that you would, if you were making a major push to lower the price, that would be that would be attached to some kind of a larger PR strategy or release of games. If they would have coincided that with the release of hardware like the touch controllers or something like that. Like, I don't know, the timing to me, yeah, like you said, it seems like it makes sense given that they're having difficulties, in other areas. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily seem to me like they're in a position to really take advantage of that if, they're not really spreading the word very well that there is, in fact, a price drop. So all of the momentum recently has been more with HTC and with other virtual reality solutions. So, it's interesting. I'll be curious to see if their numbers do in fact go up. And recently there's actually been some positive news about the PlayStation VR actually selling quite well. Figures were coming out, I think, saying that a little over 900,000 units had been sold, and it sounds like Sony is on track to sell, around the number that they were expecting to. So good news for them, good news for HTC, but lots of bad news for Oculus, I guess. So I guess it can't hurt. right?
Well, so see, the thing is, there's two ways to kind of look at this. I mean, you can look at it as a fan of Oculus, and you can look at it through the lens of somebody who's maybe not, or I don't want to say anti-Oculus, but the latter being, oh wow, this looks like a desperate move from a company trying to make sure that they stay relevant, and you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Personally don't want to see it that way. Just because I know I'm already obviously biased, owning a Vive, and I'm trying to think of it as more so. I would love to be able to see it as like them reaching out to their fan base and saying like, hey, I don't know the exact words I'm looking for, but you remember what comes to mind is the issue with Toyota a couple of years ago and how they had a huge recall. They had like a huge like it really hurt their bottom line. They had to recall like a bunch of cars just for safety issues and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they just totally owned up to it. They owned up to it. They were super transparent and they said, hey, you know what, we made some mistakes. We're going through. We're looking, through this now. We know that we have a loyal consumer base and consumer following, and we want to make it up to you guys. And so therefore, it was just such a nice gesture from a company that I feel like they recovered, very quickly from that. And there was even more trust, I think, in the brand from the consumers. You know what I mean? Just because the response was so great. And so I'm wondering if maybe this is Oculus's viewpoint as well, where it's just like, there's a lot of stuff happening in the media. There's a lot of crazy things going on.
Yeah,
but the experiences that they offer are still fantastic. And I mean, there's, like you said, exclusive experiences too that, aren't available on PSVR or the Vive. So, if this is a way for them to kind of help people get into their, onto their platform, I can totally understand that.
No, I mean, especially considering, I almost think it's probably more useful for people that have Oculus Rifts without touch controllers and are looking to potentially buy the. I mean, now that you mention it, and I have an Oculus and I don't have touch controllers yet, so the fact that I can now get them for half off, I think, kind of gives me quite a bit more incentive to go pick one up, I think. So it's interesting that you say that. I mean, especially for people out there that are already in the ecosystem, getting the controllers for cheaper is definitely a plus. And then, on top of that, just, any positive, I guess, news items. I mean, another thing is just the fact that, we've been talking about all of these companies hopefully getting their prices down. And so I wonder how much of this was affected by the news and all the stuff that's going on versus just what Oculus and Facebook's plans were originally to eventually try to lower costs. Like, I wonder if any of this stuff is somehow getting cheaper to manufacture now that we're, months and almost a year, I guess, pushing into a lot of these devices being out on the market.
No, I mean, that's a great point and something I don't think, many people will jump to as a conclusion considering all of the PR stuff that's been happening with Oculus and Zenimax and stuff in the news. But that's actually a fantastic point. For some reason, though, just in the stuff that I've read, I don't get the feel or the vibe that that's necessarily the case. But then again, I'm assuming, and we all know what happens when we assume, right? So
yeah. Because I mean, it just like it. I mean, yeah, playing devil's advocate on the other side too. I mean, for consumers out there looking to get into, the Oculus world right now, it's kind of an uneasy and it's a hard place to be in. I mean, really, it's very unpredictable where things are kind of heading, and with a lot of people out there really don't know the full extent of what the lawsuit with Zenimax might ultimately mean for Oculus, what it might ultimately mean, and all that sort of stuff. So maybe that's a good time to kind of bring up, the recent stuff that happened in that lawsuit.
Yeah, well, let's actually transition to the other part of this Oculus Zenimax story, which is the injunction that was filed. And so, as an attorney, I want to get your opinion on what this means and how serious it actually is.
Sure. So I mean, the best way to characterize it is basically Zenimax filed their motion for entry of the judgment and a permanent injunction. So essentially, like as we had talked about a couple weeks back, a jury verdict after the trial did find in favor of Zenimax and basically awarded $500 million to Zenimax for various issues relating to Oculus and their executives' actions, Palmer Luckey and John Carmack, John Iribe, etc. So, anyways, long story short, verdict in Zenimax's favor, but a final order hasn't actually been entered yet. And finally, Zenimax filed a motion saying, "Hey, court, enter this order for the verdict that the jury found, for damages. And then in addition to that, we also would like to ask you to enter a permanent injunction preventing Oculus from their continued infringement based on that judgment." And as expected somewhat, but also a little bit surprising, I guess, they're specifically asking that the court stop Oculus and Facebook from using any of the coding that they're claiming, was part of that infringement. And according to Zenimax's motion, they would like the court to order that Oculus is no longer allowed to utilize in any way its Oculus SDK on the desktop, so in the PC space, the Oculus mobile SDK, and really any of the ties between Oculus software and both Unreal Engine and Unity, which, for anyone out there that kind of follows this stuff knows that's pretty much all of the software that powers the Oculus Rift and the Gear VR. So it's really not anything unsubstantial. So and right now, I mean, I don't know when the motion's set to be heard. The story I read about it, and I did look at the documents that they had filed. They were being reported by Upload VR, and so they didn't actually include the notice of motion and that sort of thing. Just the motion itself and a memorandum in support thereof. So I'm not sure when it's going to actually be heard by the court, but they were filed, I think, last week on February 23rd. So at some point, the court's going to have to figure out when it wants to hear that motion, and most likely, the first order of business will be to set a briefing schedule on the motion so that Oculus and Facebook have a chance to formally respond in writing to the motion, and then potentially, eventually, make oral arguments in front of the judge before a final ruling's entered on the motion. So there's still some time to kind of see what Oculus and Facebook are going to do about the motion itself. And then in addition to that, we've also heard from Oculus in the past that they intend to appeal the verdict. So there's that as well. So I mean, in the meantime, it's a little, I'm sure it's scary just having that motion kind of lingering out there. And I'm not really sure exactly what the likelihood is of Zenimax prevailing or not. I mean, certainly if Oculus doesn't have a strong ground for prevailing on an appeal, it might be an uphill battle. But at the same time, they seem pretty confident that they were going to be moving forward in that direction anyway. So maybe they're less concerned about it than other people out there. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The most interesting thing, I think, will be to see how Oculus and Facebook actually respond to the motion, because in that response, we'll kind of get an idea of what they think their strongest arguments are as to why the court should not impose such an injunction.
Okay, yeah. One thought that comes to mind, though, is the fact that, I mean, didn't the jury rule that there was no ongoing damages which would like be really just the main source for why the injunction would ever have any kind of traction.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I don't. There's not an easy way to answer that because it, I mean, they didn't enter a finding for ongoing damage, but like at the same time, how are you really going to? I mean, I don't know. There is, like I said, there isn't an easy answer for that. I don't necessarily think that just because they didn't make that kind of a finding, that the court's not going to necessarily take action. Obviously, Zenimax is asking for an injunction
Yeah.
because they feel that based on the findings of the jury that they have what they need to ask for that type of relief. So, and one can argue that until damages have already been, assessed, that you can't really ask a jury to to preemptively award damages. So it's not like you can ask the jury to say, "Hey, how much am I going to be hurt in the next few years? Like, award me damages for that now." No, like you would be asking a jury to award you compensation based on what's already occurred. And as far as getting a court to stop additional damages from occurring, I think the more appropriate way to do that would be by asking the court to impose an injunction. So I think that issue, as far as whether or not the court actually believes that Oculus's continued use of the software is actually going to in some way hurt Zenimax. I think that's still something that the court's going to have to determine, and I think that determination is probably going to happen through the court's ruling on this motion. I think Oculus is going to have to prove either that the findings in the jury verdict were wrong, or they're going to have to explain why it doesn't make sense for the court to impose such an injunction at this time. And part of that is probably going to have something to do with the fact that they don't believe they're being damaged. But we will see.
Good point. Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, this is what when Damon and I had been talking when this was a little bit more fresh. One of the things that he brought up was that it might just be, Zenimax trying to strong arm Oculus into something else, and not necessarily them wanting to follow through, but more so using it as a bargaining chip. So there's still a lot of no pun intended, but there's still a lot of games being played, I'm sure, behind closed doors with pieces being moved around. So
yeah, and depending on how likely, like I said, like I don't really know as many details as to what the likelihood is that the court would rule in favor of Zenimax in the injunction. I mean, you would think if Zenimax had a strong chance of winning, that Oculus and Facebook would be wary of that and possibly be trying to work out some kind of an agreement with Zenimax before something like that could happen. So yeah, you're totally right. I mean, it's a combination of playing all your cards if you're Zenimax to get the best outcome as possible. It's also if Zenimax actually feels like they have something to gain or lose by Oculus's continued operation, then that's also something. Like, it's hard to know exactly what's in Zenimax's mind right now. As far as, I mean, are they just trying to get the money? Do they have a more long term vision of what they plan to do with Oculus? That's, I think, the interesting question is, if Zenimax had its way here, what's its complete end goal? Is it just to make a bunch of money and screw over Oculus and continue to work on games for the Vive, or is it something different? So those are questions I would have. Is really, what are they trying to get here at the end of the day? They have a $500 million judgment, obviously, which is super lucrative. And if that's all they were concerned about, it seems like they already got that, and now they're pushing for the injunction. So yeah, it might be a situation where at some point they say, "Hey, pay us the money, don't appeal, and we'll drop the injunction." Who knows? But we will see.
Yep, good point. Well, I mean, this is like we always say, it's an ongoing thing, and we'll have to continue following all the drama from the courtroom. That's for sure.
Hmm.
Well, let's cover one more news topic, and we'll keep it light before transitioning to game talk. And I just want to mention real quick the that what is it called? The subscription service that Viveport is offering. Remember, we had talked about that a couple weeks back.
Yep.
They named the price and said that it costs $6.99 per month, and you will be able to pick 5 virtual reality apps or 5 titles at the start of each month. And I'm assuming that would mean that you'd have them for the next month, for that month until the next month rolled around. You get to pick 5 more, but that to me was actually a little bit surprising. I was expecting $10 or $9.99, $6.99. I know it's only $3, but for some reason that like psychologically just makes such a big difference.
Yeah,
to me,
in the
like
single digits.
yeah, I mean, it's nice. Like, I mean, $7 like to try a bunch of apps, and I mean, I was just looking at the short list here. But you have awesome ones like Richie's Plank Experience, Knockout League, Mars Odyssey. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that, I mean, Richie's Plank Experience is about $8. So this is, getting the subscription is even cheaper, and you can grab that. You can hold on to it permanently if you want, and still have 4 other rotating titles, and you'd pay less than buying the game. And so I mean, look, we support the game. We still want you to buy the game because Tony and crew are really awesome people. But that being said, I just want to highlight the fact that this subscription service is, to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, this is a fantastic deal.
And I'm sure I'm kind of curious as to exactly how the developers get compensated, but I'm sure they're not part of this program without getting some compensation back for the sale. So hopefully this works out for everybody. It'd be really nice if consumers get a great deal on cheap VR games and being able to try out lots of different experiences. But that also, this helps build up awareness for titles that may otherwise get lost in the fold, and also help with HTC and the Vive branding. I mean, I think this is all good stuff. I think it has great potential. So
yeah, so they actually released the numbers for like how much developers would make, and it says that developers would obviously have to opt into the Viveport subscription service, but they would receive 84 cents for each subscriber who picked up one of their titles. And now there's no clarification there, and I'll look into it further, but there's no clarification in terms of like if that's 84 cents like every month or 84 cents
per pickup,
per user per pickup.
Yeah,
I would assume that it's got to be on a monthly basis, because if you have like one of the more popular titles and people are constantly picking it, then you're providing more value. And I'm just trying to do the quick math on it now. 84 cents times 5 titles that they're paying out. Help me with the math, Ryan. It's $4.20, right? For 84. So I mean, if Viveport is paying that out and they're keeping the rest off the top just for providing the service, it's still not a bad deal for them.
No, not at all. And especially if you're, if you developed a title that isn't in its peak, time, like if it is an older title and most of the people that are interested in it have already picked it up, and this is a way to kind of get in front of a new user base that wouldn't have picked up your title otherwise. So if you think of it that way, it's potentially just bringing extra revenue that you might otherwise not be able to gain. Think of it kind of like an extended form of a Steam sale or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the virality and potential virality of a lot of these games now, or not just games, but apps, I think will be pretty high, or at least significantly higher than what it is now. I mean, just for us, when we're looking for what's a hot new game that we should be checking out or looking at, we kind of source through Reddit or through online forums, things like that. But the thing is, like, for most people, if you see like a game that's super hot and you're not, no pun intended, but if you see a game that's super popular, if you see a game that's super popular and you want to check it out, but you're not sure, you don't want to drop too much, but if it's part of and I'm talking about buying the game in full, but now it's just like you're gonna have, I would say, a good significant portion of the the Vive community and Vive owners, opting into this title or the service. At least I would think so. And maybe I'm just a big Vive enthusiast, and that's why I'm a big fan of it already. But I would say that the chances of something being a hit because it's just much more easier to access instead of saying like, oh, hey, I got to buy this new title for 15, $20, whatever the average price is. It's like, I'll just wait until next month and I'll just pick it as one of my titles and see how it is. And if I like it, I'll continue keeping it. Or, maybe this will even lead to extra sales for some of the developers because people get to try out the game for a month and they're like, you know what, I want to have this, permanently rather than through the subscription service. So
yeah, well, and
it's going to be good all around. But
yeah, and
sorry,
another thing that no, just listening to you talk about it and thinking about just the natural inclinations of people. I also think there's an opportunity just to get people more excited and more, I guess, work being more involved with the Vive branding period. So I mean, if you can imagine, it kind of reminds me similar to stuff like achievement points on the Xbox platform or trophies on the PlayStation platform, and their various programs. You have, I don't even remember all the names of their programs at the moment. PlayStation Now, is it PlayStation Now? PlayStation. Anyways, basically the
sorry,
equivalent.
I can't help you there.
Yeah. No, the equivalent. Honestly, because I've been mostly a PC guy this past generation, so some of that stuff has kind of went over my head a bit. But the platforms out. I mean, Microsoft and Sony have both been doing subscription services live, and also PlayStation's. PlayStation has their own service where they on a monthly basis provide certain access to titles. It's not the same as this Viveport initiative exactly, but it's similar, and I think in that it encourages people to come and check things out every month and get engaged. And I think to some extent that would be a positive thing, just in terms of making sure that people that have Vives are checking in every month, seeing what's available, actively looking at the stores, rather than sometimes checking out for a while until you hear about a title that's interesting. Well, if you have a subscription to this, even if you haven't heard about a specific title or aren't waiting on something specifically, just the fact that you're paying a monthly fee might mean you are a little bit more active in perusing to see what's out there on a regular basis and maintaining your involvement that way. So I think that's also kind of a positive thing about having a monthly subscription service that encourages users to kind of check in from time to time.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's going to help build the community overall. And I think, there's obviously a great community around Steam. And so I think Viveport is going to be another place where people can, like you said, just kind of check in, see what's new, what's hot, have achievements and certain things that will keep them coming back. And, obviously as VR grows, as the apps and titles continue to multiply and improve, hopefully in quality, it'll be really great to have that library of content there that you can always go back to at any point in time. So, let's move on to game talk then, if you're ready. I know there's the one big elephant in the room for us, which I think you and I want to table until next week, is the announcement of LG's headset. But I think
there aren't a lot of information on that yet.
It's coming through. I mean, because they're doing the big reveal at GDC, and I just want to make sure we have all the info. So if that's cool with you, I want to say let's table that for next week.
Yeah. I mean, we know there's a connection to Valve right now, but other than that, I mean, we haven't heard anything. So I agree. And the other big thing, I guess, that AMD and Nvidia had their press conferences, I guess you would call them. They're not really just press, but their conferences last night, and not a whole lot of information yet out on the AMD side. Kind of a big announcement as far as the 1080 Ti on NVIDIA's side that everybody was kind of waiting for. That's actually going to be hitting the market next week. So I guess that is worth mentioning. If you're on the market for a new GPU, uh, as of this recording, and you don't know that NVIDIA is releasing a new graphics card next week, and that prices are dropping and that sort of thing, that's something to check out. The 1080 is going to be lowering. The 1080's price has been lowered, I think, to 500. Not sure if it's effective now or if it's effective next week. And then the 1080 Ti, which is basically 35% faster, supposedly, than the 1080, is going to be released next week. So, and then AMD's Vega cards and other upcoming cards. We still don't know much about them, to be honest. But they were at least announced as far as branding is concerned, and so hopefully in the coming weeks we're going to actually know more details about what the specs are on those, and also when they're going to be released. So lots and lots of news coming out of GDC, and next week, I think once all the dust settles, we'll be able to talk about some of that stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a lot of recap after GDC is done. So, yeah, let's move on to game talk then.
Sounds good.
Do you want to go first, or shall I?
Yeah, I can go first. I had a few titles that I played this week, but the one I kind of wanted to get out of the way first was going to be for this week is Pinball FX VR. So I've been thinking about picking that up for a while because I played Pinball FX, the non VR version on the PC, quite a bit, and I just like video game pinball games for some reason. I just think they're really cool. And the Pinball FX series is especially neat because they tend to do things and play around with concepts that can't be done in real life pinball. It's hard to explain really, but I mean, some of the different mechanisms on the boards and whatnot, activate animations and different types of events that would just be really hard to do they'd be impossible to do on a physical table. So that stuff, I was already interested, but I wanted to see what it would be like in VR because I thought it would have a lot of potential given the fact that it's a real life physical thing. And I mean, in some ways I was impressed. In some ways I was kind of let down. And I know that there are other simulation pinball games, or more simulation, I should say, type pinball games in VR out there that I'm going to have to try to look into. But I guess one of the things that just from the beginning that the biggest thing that kind of let me down about Pinball FX VR is the fact that you just control it with the Vive control. You control it with your triggers, but you don't actually physically interact with the machine. So that was a big letdown for me. And what I mean by that is before playing the game, I kind of pictured, oh, this is going to be like, a VR ping pong game or a VR, table hockey game that I've played where I am going to walk up to a machine in virtual reality. I'm going to put my hands with the Vive controllers in a similar spot to where the paddles would be on the table, and I'm going to be playing that pinball game. And maybe I could kind of nudge the table a bit with, the controllers if I wanted to tilt it a bit or whatnot. Basically I was expecting to be able to interact with that table, similar to like I would do in real life.
Like as if you were in an arcade or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that isn't ideal. Maybe the people that developed Pinball FX VR, for virtual reality, looked into that and thought it wasn't fun or whatnot. But I mean, the sense I get, especially considering this was a non-VR title prior to becoming a VR game, is that they probably didn't really look into that stuff. It almost seems like they just mapped controller buttons or keyboard buttons to buttons on the Vive controllers and, figured out, formatted things in a way where you could, be in the environment in virtual reality and kind of left it at that. I mean, there are some things that are very cool about it being in VR. I mean, I think the main room that you're in, when and the menus and all of that stuff are handled pretty well. I mean, I think the graphics look great, and I thought it was very, very, very cool that the effects from the table kind of come at you at 3D. So when you're playing the table, let's say you're playing an underwater themed pinball game, for example, there'll be sharks and fish and whatnot like swimming around you while you're playing, and that stuff is all really cool. There's a Mars themed table. There's a couple of other ones, and they all have really cool themes, really cool effects. That stuff is done great, but it's just the fact that the actual interactions to me didn't feel real. The tables look and feel real, but if they would have just went that extra step to be able to add some kind of a room scale, more interactivity with the actual physical tables, that would have went a long way. And part of that too is that this was, I think, originally in VR it was an Oculus exclusive, perhaps, because I think it was in the Oculus store for a while before it came to Steam. And so maybe some of that is also just a remnant of the game's non-touch supported Oculus setup. Who knows?
That's a good point.
Because even looking at the tables, you don't really like whether you stand or sit. Like, to me, also that was another thing, is it felt like they started the tables at kind of a weird height. Like, it just never felt like I was able to walk freely in an environment and mess around with the tables like I was expecting I would be able to do. It was almost more developed for a sit down type VR experience where I was using a controller more than I was actually using motion controllers. So it'd be cool if they update that stuff, or if there's other pinball games out there that do a better job of that stuff in VR. I'd be really interested. If anybody out there knows of any ways to change some of that stuff, let me know. Or if they suggest other pinball games in VR that I should try, I'd be really interested in hearing from you guys. But those were just my initial impressions of, and I mean, that said, I'd still be super interested in new tables coming to Pinball FX VR. There were a bunch of Star Wars tables, for example, that were in the original Pinball FX on the PC. They came out as expansion packs, actually, but they were super cool. And I think seeing some of that type of stuff in VR, if the licensing is still there and if they're still able to do it, would be really, really, really awesome. So I'm not completely dead on the idea of Pinball FX VR. I just think that it would have a lot of potential, given that it's like a physical medium where you are actually dealing with real world kind of objects, so it just, I just think so far it didn't really live up to my expectations. But
well, that's a little disappointing. Is the game still in early access, or is it fully out?
No. I think it's fully out, but it's just the model of the game, as far as I know, is just, if it's anything like the original release, it only has like 3 or 4 actual pinball machines in the initial release. And then I know as of right now, you can buy season 1, and then you can also buy like a Walking Dead, I think, expansion that has, additional pinball machines that add in. And as far as I know, season 1, I think that the machines that are for sale right now, other than the Walking Dead stuff in the virtual reality version of the game, are just the original machines that were created by the team. So, and I think it's Zen Pinball, I think, is the name of the team that makes those tables. But so it's just like original kind of themed pinball machines, and then the Walking Dead stuff. So as far as I know, some of the other licensed stuff that was released on the PC, in the PC game, like the Star Wars pinball machines, and there were some Marvel pinball machines and that sort of thing, I don't think those are available in VR yet. So those are the ones that I'm hoping for, because I think those, seeing some of like the characters and events that happen when you're playing these games in VR come at you in 3D and kind of engulf the room and everything. Those things are really cool. And so, as cool as it is to see sharks and meteors and that kind of stuff, I think it would be really, really, really cool to see Star Wars related themes or Marvel related themes in those same contexts. So those are some things to kind of look out for, and yeah, I mean, if you liked the original game, just know that it might not be worth picking up the VR version just because of those nuances. If you don't have any version of the game and you have a VR headset and you're interested in kind of finding out what the stuff is like, then it's not necessarily a bad pickup. It's just not everything that I think virtual reality pinball could be.
Gotcha. All right. Well, it's going to be hard with a lot of the licensed stuff, but I mean, I'd love to be able to see that too. So
Yeah.
hopefully, when some of these major studios or major just brands and companies getting into what VR is, we'll hopefully start to see some of the licensed and branded stuff coming out as well.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, so I played a game over the past week. It's Super Pixel Smash, and I was able to try out the game, and I saw that there was a little hype around it on Reddit, or at least I saw a post or two here or there. On Steam, I was surprised that it only had 8 reviews just in total. And I'm not trying to judge a book by its cover, but I just want to provide some context for where maybe the game is at right now. But the game, the best way that I can describe it, it's got a really fun retro feel. The music is great. The visuals look fantastic. And think of it as almost like a 3D version of like, what's that game on BlackBerry that you used to play, like Brick or Brickler or something like that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Breakout, I think.
No, it's like you're just literally bouncing a ball back and forth and like Brick Breaker.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure.
maybe I'm the only one that played that, but it's. I mean,
No. I think that's. I mean, I 100% know what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure it's called Breakout, or at least one form of it. I think the one on the iPhones are just a version of. Yeah, I think the original game was called Breakout.
Well, I mean, the idea being that you have like this paddle or this thing that you slide along the bottom, and you are basically just sending a ball back and forth and knocking out bricks, and like that's your entire goal. So this is like room scale, 3-dimensional. There's bricks all around you. There's walls all around you. Like the walls go for I want to say maybe a couple 100 feet or so in like every direction. And so, but you have this ball and paddle that you just and you're just hitting them back and forth and trying to knock everything out. And you can speed it up, slow it down, different things like that. And so,
how do you control the paddle?
I mean, you hold the controller, and the controller just simulates as a paddle. And so it's really cool. I will have to say that I think it just maybe wasn't my style of game, but the reviews on Reddit, the reviews on Steam seem to be very positive. Seems like people really enjoy this game, and I can see. Okay, so to be fair, I can see the game being a great kind of workout tool. Which is what I know some people had mentioned it for. And so, because it's just, you're constantly moving. It's like, if you'd be playing tennis or virtual tennis or something like that, but you're just swinging back and forth, and, they make a game out of it. And so, like I said, it was cool. It was fun. I played it for a little bit, and, maybe it's just, like I said, maybe it's not my game, but I don't want to bash just because I don't have, a personal preference towards it. Because I know that there are people out there that like it. So in terms of polish, it has a nice feel to it. It has, it's simple, and it accomplishes exactly what it sets out to do. A game that you can just pick up at any point and play, and, just kind of get some exercise activity in. And it's really fun in that manner. But, maybe, like I said, I guess it's just not really my my type of game in terms of what I'm looking for from VR at the current moment.
Sure. Well, that's cool. I mean, yeah, it definitely sounds though like it has some, it has potential for some people that are kind of looking for that type of a game. And how much was it? Did you say?
I will have to double check Steam. I believe it was $7.99.
Okay, okay. Do you think it? I mean, is it? What kind of modes did the game offer? Do you know?
So I just played that kind of single player mode. I will have to check. Actually, I never even jumped in to check if it had a multiplayer mode, but I'm on the Steam web page right now, so I can answer that for you and give a comprehensive overview. But where is this? No, it looks like it's just single player. Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I don't remember seeing a multiplayer, so that makes sense. Yeah, so it's just a single player mode. Like I said, it's a simple game, simple experience, and it's probably like, maybe if you're like brand new to VR, it's amazing. It's just one of
Sure.
those experiences that is unlike other things, and it is unique in its own way. But like I said, for me, it just wasn't what I'm necessarily looking for. But the game is still a lot of fun to play, and I want to be able to say positive things about it because I know that it has a lot of positive qualities that people who are into that type of game, whether it's paddles, rackets, whatever, like this is a game you enjoy. I mean, you might even enjoy it
Yeah, yeah.
considering your game history on Game Talk.
I've been playing quite a few of those, so I'd be curious to kind of see. Yeah, maybe I'll have to come and check it out at your place sometime or something. And if I
Yeah, for
like it
sure.
enough, maybe pick it up. Just because, yeah, like I've played a few of those, so I'd be interested to try it out to see how it stacks up.
Yeah, I mean, be able to compare the mechanics and all that to others because I don't really have a baseline in terms of comparison
Yep.
for the other games that like the ones that you had played.
Yeah. No, I'll have to come check it out.
Cool, man. Well, that's really all I had. It sounds like we had just about an average game talk week or game experience week for
Hey,
both of us.
I mean, as far as that new time, I mean, I do have a couple of others that, like, I picked up Quiver or
Oh yeah, you
VR.
mentioned that. Okay.
I haven't played it yet, but I picked it up specifically because it's been on my radar as far as like, oh, I need to play this at some point. I hear such good things about it, so I do have it, and I'm saving it for next week to kind of, give my impressions on it. And then I played it. I played more Knockout League actually this week. Like that game, every time I play it, actually, it kind of, gives me a workout and really gets the blood
Yeah,
flowing. Like that.
I can
That game is
imagine.
really. It's a cool game. I mean, it's. Again, I mean, I'm not the most in shape person right now, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. But I mean, that game is cool. I like. I can't stress enough. Like I know it's not the game that I covered this week or anything, but I am really excited about more content coming to that game. Hopefully, to really flesh it out because I think right now it only has. It looks like it only has about four boxers to fight against, and really not a whole lot of extra modes. But if you add some more modes in there, had a few more boxers, a couple of other. I mean, that game is basically a solid version of Punch Out for the Vive. It's a really cool game. So anyway, so yeah, so I actually had a lot of fun with my Vive this week. So
Cool, man. Well, I mean, there'll definitely be more stuff, or I have a couple games that are in the pipeline for me too. But just getting back in town last night, didn't have as much of a chance to dive in. So hopefully next game talk we'll have a lot of more
yeah,
fun stuff to talk about. And
well, and
I'm excited for this subscription service because Knockout League is included as one of the titles. So
that was cool to hear. Like when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's exactly the kind of. Because
uh,
in all honesty, like I
yeah.
said, right now it is a little bit thin on content. I still would recommend it, but I mean, but if you're able to play it through Viveport on a subscription uh, based model, that's amazing. I mean, and if those are the types of titles that they're going to be looking to add to the service, then that's a really really great opportunity for people to check out new stuff. So
Yeah. No, I mean, They say it's going to be available in a couple of weeks, and I'm using quotation marks because that was the quote that they provided. So, yeah, I mean, once it's up and running, we will definitely let you know, and we'll probably be vetting some of the games on there and going through and seeing what are some of our top picks. But yeah, I mean, if this really takes off, I wonder if it could rival. Well, now I'm getting into conspiracy theory stuff, but I wonder if it could rival Steam in terms of being a top platform of choice for Vive owners. And I wonder if maybe that's why there's a lot of hoopla around regarding Valve kind of working with LG on a headset as well. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff happening. I don't want to speculate too much.
Yeah,
but,
no, I mean, it
just,
makes sense.
It's a lot of moving pieces. So
yeah, I mean, it's always made sense. Though. I mean, Valve's always talked about it. We don't know exactly what the extent of that is yet, but I mean, Valve's always talked about open VR and supporting other manufacturers and really just kind of the Vive in many ways was kind of like the prototypical kind of this is our example of how VR should be done kind of thing. But at the same time, it was kind of only a matter of time to some extent before other people started using the tracking system. So I don't know what kind of internal agreements and whatnot that Valve and HTC might have had, but I think it's smart and it makes a lot of sense for HTC to also promote their own services and their own store for that time where they need to differentiate themselves with other headsets that might eventually come to the market. So it's always a good thing to see more and more companies kind of pitch in and double down on virtual reality. And if that means new headsets coming to the Steam VR platform, great. At the same time, though, it's great to see HTC really stepping up and trying to provide great new services for its users out there to give them as much value as possible. So,
absolutely. Well, that is all I have for this week. How about you?
Yeah, that's it.
Cool, man. Well, let's go ahead and cut this one here. Again, just a reminder, if you skip the beginning of the episode, but if you do not have Super Smash, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of an N64 now. If you don't have Smashbox Arena on the Vive is what we're talking about. If you don't have Smashbox Arena yet, we're doing a Steam giveaway for that. And so if you don't have it yet, you really need to get this game. So the way you enter is just go to YouTube, find the corresponding episode. This is going to be episode number 59, and just leave us a comment there. Let us know what you think of the crazy news topics that are happening right now in the world of VR, or some of the games that we mentioned, or games that we should be mentioning and playing. So keep the conversation going there, and we are on iTunes, Stitcher, so make sure to subscribe there. Leave us a review if you would be so kind, and we'll talk to you guys later this week. Ronnie, you have a good one, man. We'll chat again soon.
Sounds great.
All right, take care.